Welcome to Pixarize's scene for vitamin A deficiency and excess, part of our series on the vitamins. Our scene for vitamin A biochemistry took place in a barn full of hay bales, and, lo and behold, this scene takes place on the same farm. So saddle up and let's put out to pasture. Alright, this definitely seems like a great American farm, so we'll cover this scene the way our farmer's grandpappy would have, left to right. So, the left side of the image is going to cover all the symptoms of a vitamin A deficiency. How do we know this? Well, take a look at the scarecrow. Recall from our vitamin A biochemistry scene that our symbol for vitamin A is hay, for vitamin hay. Check out how much vitamin hay our poor old scarecrow is shedding. Looking like a hay hemorrhage. Don't worry, hay hemorrhage won't be covered on step 1. Our vitamin A deficient scarecrow should be able to teach us everything we need to know about vitamin A deficiency, even if he might not be able to withstand a storm or a large gust of wind. Turn your attention to our forlorn scarecrow's face. See that night mask? That's kind of messed up, isn't it? Since I was raised by television, I assume all scarecrows are actually alive, and perpetually blindfolding him seems cruel. Anyway, our scarecrow is wearing a nighttime eye cover to remind us that in vitamin A hay deficiency, night blindness, or nyctalopia, is a common symptom. If you recall our visual pigment piglets from our biochemistry scene, you'd remember that vitamin A is a crucial component in the visual pigments and light perception, so in the setting of deficiency, low light vision is impacted. Next, take a look at those nasty beetles crawling around our scare guy's eyes. These creepy red beetles are there to represent beteau spots, or beetle spots, on the conjunctiva of patients with vitamin A deficiency. Beteau spots are keratinized cell clusters in the conjunctiva. Recall that differentiating butterfly from our biochemistry scene? Yeah, vitamin A is important for epithelial cell differentiation into specialized tissue, including the conjunctiva of the eyes. Without vitamin A, normal epithelium is replaced by inappropriately keratinized cells, or beteau beetle spots, via a poorly understood mechanism. Now check out what that little girl is doing to Scarebro. It looks like she's rubbing her creamed corn on his upper pelvis with a carrot. That's just humiliating. This scarecrow's been here longer than you've been alive, little girl. Show some dang respect. The carrot here represents keratomalacia, and the creamed corn represents corneal liquefaction, since that's what keratomalacia is, the degeneration and liquefaction of the corny cornea in the setting of vitamin A deficiency. Again, this is because of vitamin A's role in the maintenance of the specialized epithelium of the cornea and conjunctiva, and without it, the substantia propria of the cornea breaks down and liquefies. Moving on, check out that flaky snakeskin on Scarebro's outstretched shoulders. It certainly makes him look extra creepy, but I don't know how scary snakeskin is to crows. Oh well. The dry, flaky, shedded skin is there to remind us of the dry, scaly epidermis seen in vitamin A deficiency, which is also referred to as xerosis cutis. Finally, notice the Scarebro is holding a cane, a recurring symbol for immunocompromise. Indeed, vitamin A deficiency is associated with immunosuppression. Okay, that does it for vitamin A deficiency. So after we take a moment to thank old Mr. Scarecrow for sharing his knowledge with us, we can shift our attention to the right portion of the image where we'll learn about the symptoms of a vitamin A excess. You should immediately be able to tell that that's what this area is covering. Just look at all those bales of hay. Bales for days. So much vitamin A. We'll begin by covering the symptoms of chronic vitamin A excess. Let's start by meeting the brother of our nature-loving vitamin A biochemistry farmer. This dude is way less calm. He's actually steaming mad. Like literally, there's steam coming out of the man's ears in that wonky, cartoony way. Obviously doesn't appreciate his granddaughter desecrating his scarecrow. The steam coming out of our farmer's ears is there to represent increased intracranial pressure, a consequence of the idiopathic intracranial hypertension seen in vitamin A excess. This condition is also known as pseudotumor cerebri and it often presents with papilledema. Papilledema, which can be seen on fundoscopy, is the swelling of the optic disc, and it happens anytime there's elevated intracranial pressure. We've represented papilledema with our angry farmer's swollen eyes, popping out of his head as he internally fumes. Idiopathic intracranial hypertension and papilledema are extremely high-yield symptoms of vitamin A or vitamin He excess. Just remember our angry farmer who needs to let off some high-pressure steam from his head, and you'll be set for test day. Now, check out our farmer's outfit. Very field worker-esque. Overalls, boots, fashion for the practical farmhand. Pay extra attention to the red patches he's sewn over the holes in his old threads. Bright red and covering his joints. These bright red patches on his knees and elbows represent joint pain, another symptom of vitamin He excess. They also add a splash of color to his ensemble. Next, look at his feet and the ground beneath it. He's standing on some dry, cracked earth. Hopefully, this doesn't reflect the fertility of the land, or he's going to have bigger problems than a scarecrow with creamed cornea corn on its overalls. This dry, cracked earth represents the dry, cracked skin often seen in vitamin A excess. If you've ever taken or known someone who is taking isotretinoin for acne, you probably heard them complain about dry skin and cracking lips. That's because isotretinoin, which we talked about in our vitamin A biochemistry scene, is a vitamin A supplement. And since we're on the topic of isotretinoin, or Accutane, we should mention its more dangerous side effect. See that tarantula crawling up our farmer's leg? He certainly hasn't noticed it. Well, that tarantula is our recurring symbol for teratogens, and isotretinoin is a well-known teratogen. It's associated with cleft palate and cardiac abnormalities, and women who wish to take isotretinoin must first take a pregnancy test and then use 2 different forms of contraception to avoid becoming pregnant while taking the drug. This is also extremely high yield, and if you have to prioritize specific parts of this scene, this teratogen tarantula and the previously covered intracranial hypertension would be the things to pick. Looking beyond our farmer, who's in for a fun surprise when that teratogen tarantula travels the rest of the way up his leg, we can see an old-timey water pump. This is an old-timey farm, after all. And what's on that handle? Ah, yes, it's the liver lever, our recurring symbol for hepatomegaly. Vitamin A is stored in the liver. Remember our chopped liver in the vitamin A biochemistry scene? So it makes sense that the liver can swell in the setting of a vitamin A excess. Finally, let's conclude by checking out this poor little farmer boy in the foreground, who represents the symptoms of acute vitamin A or vitamin He excess. Maybe he's a city boy, but he's just not used to all this hay everywhere. He's gotten a bit sick and had to sit out from the fun our girl is having. You can tell from those cartoony spinning stars around his head and comically swirly eyes that he's pretty dizzy. Must have gotten spun around in the hay maze or on the hayride. Do those things happen on real farms, or is that just fairs? Who knows? Well, one way or another, this kid got dizzy, and that's to help us remember that acute vitamin A excess can cause vertigo. And ew, this kid seems to have gotten so dizzy he blew chunks. That's to represent the nausea and vomiting seen in acute vitamin A excess. Alright, partners, that about does it for vitamin A and all of this hay. We've covered all the high-yield information on vitamin A biochemistry, deficiency, and excess. And now you should be ready to reap what you've sown and crush all those board questions. After that, you can go sow more wild oats. Wait, I don't think that phrase means what I think it means. Until next time.